Welcome to our Saturday 1-hour edition of Wasatch Weekends. I'm your host, Ben Roof. We've got a great show in store for you today. Our fearless leader, Steve Mumlow, is going to be showing us his favorite 3-layer cake recipe. And then the recruiter guy, Bill Humbert, will be joining us to share some tips and tricks for job seekers. And we'll be hearing a fantastic small town story from Park City's Chamber of Commerce. But first, a little bit of local news. Park City is currently accepting proposals for structural artwork on the Dally West headframe. That's going to be located just off of Bonanza Drive on the rail trail, and Park City is accepting proposals until August 2nd. Now let's take a quick look at our local weather.
This weather report is brought to you by Sun and Ski Sports, your new mountain sports headquarters.
Welcome back to Wasatch Weekends. Steve Mumlow is our president here at Deerfield Media and at Park City TV, and he's got a wonderful 3-layer cake recipe that he's going to show us right now.
Tell me about this cake.
Well, this cake started, my mother made it for myself, my older brother and sister, and she made it for maybe about 9-10 years until my younger brother came around. And it's a 3-layer cake, so when he came around, we couldn't go to 4. And that's when we went to apple pie. But I still remember this cake, and when I was a little boy watching my mother make this cake, I would read the back of the box. And they had these interesting lines saying, you have to do all this extra stuff if you lived over 3,500 feet. And living at 170 feet above sea level, I wondered, like, who are these people that live at 3,500 feet?
Crazy
and
people.
why are they burdened with all this extra stuff?
Right.
So now I have an opportunity to come out here and bake my very first cake at over 3,500 feet in altitude. And so that's what we're going to do.
All right.
And interestingly enough, I bought all the ingredients here at the local Walmart, which is a wonderful store. So this cake will cost $6.95.
Oh, wow, that's a
to make.
steal.
So I'm going to start putting it together now. You just get yourself a nice little bowl. It's a box cake.
Nice.
So devil's food, anything else. And we open the bag here. We're having a little trouble opening this bag here. But
Well,
now we got it.
I love the story
And
behind
we
this cake.
Pour everything in here.
Some of my best memories with my grandparents and my parents were in the kitchen. I remember making bread with my grandmother. So
It's
a very
wonderful.
warm
And this is
memory.
not a fancy cake. This is a feel-good cake.
Oh, good.
Work with the kids. They can all have their own special layer, and you can make them feel special. We're going to hold that off to the third segment.
3 layers is intimidating, though.
It is a little bit. Now, here comes my special moment. In that, I get to put in 2 tablespoons of flour,
That's
which
to
is
help with
needed
altitude.
for the people at the altitude.
Yes.
So I'm experiencing my childhood dream right now. So take
We're
note.
so happy that
1,
you're doing it in Park City.
2, 3, 4. These are half tablespoons, so I have to put 4
Oh, I
in.
thought it looked like a lot,
No.
but no.
And so I'm just going to cherish the moment here.
Okay.
Okay, that's enough. And so now we're going to get to the rest of the situation. It calls for 3 eggs.
Okay.
And as my grandmother and mother always told me, break 1 egg at a time and put it in.
Really? Why?
I don't know, I had to do something like we got real chicken eggs and some of them could be spoiled. 1 at a time.
See, I
put
always
it
do
in.
mine together, so
No, you wouldn't do that.
Not
Because if the
anymore.
third one was bad, you lost 2 good eggs.
that's true.
And there's my third egg into the mixture. We put in 1 cup of water,
All right. Looks good.
and we put in 1/3 cup of vegetable oil, and we are off to the races. Now, all we have to do is blend this for 2.5 minutes to 30 seconds at low speed.
At low speed.
Then we're going to go to a commercial break, and then I'll finish up the 2 minutes at a high speed
Sounds
because
good.
it can be very dangerous at high speed.
All right, well, it's a little loud out here. You don't want to have to hear all of this, but you don't want to miss this. We are going to be doing more cake right after this.
Thank you.
If you're just tuning in, I'm here with Steve Mumblow, the president of Deerfield Media. He is in Park City this week for a nice visit and also to bake a cake. So we're at the second step of baking this cake. He just mixed it up and told us the story behind it. And now, what's next?
Now, after 2.5 minutes of blending together the ingredients, we are going to just quickly oil our pans and put some flour into them. This is an easy trick. Liz on Nantucket has taught me this trick.
I always just
And
use the
she's
spray.
very good. Oh,
this is
no, no,
better.
no, no. We pour it in, and then you pour it on to the next one. And
Oh, it's so much better.
Absolutely. And this is the way to do it, because most of our viewers are out of the Park City, Salt Lake City area, but we also have a huge national and international following. And so Liz on Nantucket, we got Ian over on Mercer Island in
nice.
Washington State who watches, Chris and Rex in Florida, Jim, Tiffany, and Dot in Baton Rouge, and my dear Patty is right now in Spain watching it. She provided us with the aprons.
Thank you.
So that's
I'm the
cool
guest chef.
stuff. And in addition, perhaps our watchers in Italy may not appreciate a box cake, but this is what we're doing.
Well, you're doctoring it up. You're fancying it up, and we really appreciate
we
our
are.
viewers
It's going
all
to be
around the
extra
world.
special. So
Yes.
I just put a little oil in around with a paper towel, throw some flour in, and now we're just going to put half of the batter into each of the tins. And it is a quick, easy process.
Smells good.
And we'll put the other half in here.
I'm going to add, if you don't know how to let people know how to watch us throughout the nation, throughout the country, go to our website. You can watch our live stream.
Yeah.
So tell your friends to tune in wherever they are. They can check us out.
And there's a cake. This one needs a little bit more if we're going to do it right. So there we are. Our batter's in our pans. And because we are at high altitude, once again, and I had to read all about this, typically if you have a light pan or a glass pan, you would bake the cake at 325 degrees, a dark pan at 350. At high altitude, it's all at 350. So there you got a break here in Park City.
Yeah.
It's easier, just one temperature.
Don't have
And
to worry about
so-
the pans.
and no matter what kind of pans you have. So our batter is ready to go into the oven. It's got to cook for 28 minutes, and I'm sure it's going to do something. Now, I did a practice run last night, and I didn't put all the flour in to see what happens. Well, you end up with a brownie.
Oh.
It doesn't rise. So
Well, if you like brownies, but
if you like
it's not going to work
brownies.
for a 3-layer cake.
So if you want that extra oomph to it, you got to put the 2 tablespoons of flour in. Okay.
All right, so we're going to put this in the oven here on the Mountain Morning Show. We're going to cook it, and then lots more to come. This is a 3-layer cake, so we have many more steps. You don't want to miss it. We'll be right back after this quick break.
Welcome back to the show. We are now joined by Bill Humbert, the recruiter guy, who is going to share with us a little bit of tips and tricks on advancing our job search and trying to get over some of those common hurdles. Bill, welcome to the show.
Hey, Ben, thank you. It's great to be here.
It's great to see you too. I hope you've been having a good 4th of July week.
Oh, it's been excellent.
Fantastic. So I know a lot of job seekers can encounter a bunch of different hurdles in the process of finding a new job, whether they left their previous career because of some issues with the company or if they were perhaps let go. And I know, especially in those cases where people have been let go, it can be a big challenge to kind of build that confidence back up and go out there and search for a new job. Do you have any tips for people?
Absolutely. The element that may slow their search, at least initially, is fear. That's the big boogeyman. And so the fear is coming from either they've been laid off recently, or most people, when they start a job, they think, especially when they get older, they think, well, I hope this one takes me to retirement. And if they get into that job and they find out it's not what they thought it was going to be, and then they kind of suffered through a couple of years or a few years, they know they have to get out of there. And so then the fear starts again. So it either comes from being laid off or making that decision you have to go. And what most people don't understand is that they're falling into the grieving process that you experience when you lose a family member or even a pet. And you've now lost a job, or you're going to lose a job, and now you're in the grieving process.
That totally makes sense. I mean, it seems to me anyway, in my personal experience, like going through a big breakup or losing a job, especially a job that you were at least initially really attached to or excited about, that turned out to not be quite what you were expecting. A lot of times that can be a really difficult mental hurdle to get up and a big shot to the self-confidence. How would you recommend getting people to kind of get over that hurdle and try and move on with that next step, especially when facing a big change?
Well, Ben, different authors have one or more steps, but in my book, Expect Success, The Science of the Over 50 Career Search, I list these 5 steps of grieving that you have to work through. It's not a literal thing, or it goes and goes and goes. And then sometimes you slide back to one of the previous steps, and that's sad, but that does happen. So the 5 steps that I use are fear, anger that you either lost your job or this manager is driving you out of that company, depression, because now you feel like, oh man, am I ever going to find a job again? And what's wrong with me? And then sometimes you'll go into denial. And it may have been your fault that you got laid off, but oh, it's the manager's fault. He told me or she told me to blah, blah, blah. And then finally, when you start getting some interviews and you start getting some action towards finding that job, you land in acceptance. And when you're in acceptance of the entire process, that's when the companies are going to be and the managers are going to be much more comfortable with you, and you're going to be more comfortable with yourself, and you'll now have that confidence that you need.
I would imagine that that's something that potential recruiters or hiring managers can sense a little bit in a potential applicant, that little bit of a hesitation or that little bit of a denial about what their potential shortcomings are or what they might have to kind of correct in themselves before moving on to a new job. Do you have any advice for how to kind of analyze that in yourself and kind of help move yourself into the next stage, if you're, say, in denial and you're trying to move into acceptance to get to that position where you're a potentially appealing client, or not client, but new employee?
So you're right. I've been a recruiter since 1981, and I can watch a person's expressions, and I'm very empathetic, and so my sphere of being able to feel things goes beyond my body. And I can sense people's fear, their anger, even if they're not trying to express it. And really everything, I can tell almost instantly when they're lying. And that's not a good thing for candidates to lie, number one. But number two, it's really bad if the manager catches them in one. So what I suggest they do is a couple of steps, and it's really important. One is to make a list of all of the things that you do well professionally and all the things you do well personally, and then put an asterisk next to the ones that you do well that you enjoy doing. And if you do that, what you're doing is you're building your confidence and you're reflecting on things that you did well. And by putting an asterisk next to the things that you do well, but you really don't want to do those other things, now you know what to focus on in a job, and that really builds your confidence too. So building that confidence is that first step.
So armed with that list, then that's going to kind of help us navigate our way towards something that we're more interested in and is a better fit. What are some other steps to kind of expand your network or get some more opportunities coming in?
Well, my book, one of my steps in my book is fight fear with action. And that works amazingly well, because as you're doing things that are positive, you're building your network, and building a network, all you do is you just list everybody that you know. Could be people, if you're older, you could be people that you stood on the sidelines with watching your kids play soccer or baseball or basketball or music, dance, doesn't matter. It could be neighbors or former neighbors who just love to hear from you. It could be former people that you worked with, so you can build a pretty big list. And I suggest that people work really hard to get to a list of 500 people. And and every time I say that, I saw the look on your eye just now. And that's what I see.
500 people. Oh my God. Do I even have 500 friends?
Oh, you do. If you were in school, how many did you know in school? I mean, people are everywhere. That's the wonderful thing about us humans. We're everywhere. And make a list of them. And then you don't even need to know their phone numbers if you know where they work, because you call the general number. And lots of times you'll hit 1 or 6 or whatever to get to the directory. And for recruiters, this is great, because if I know the person's name, I know who they are. I don't have to go through a receptionist and go through the 90 questions of why am I calling.
Get your way past those gatekeepers a little bit.
Yeah, that's right. And so the great news is, as a person looking for a job, you can take advantage of that too. So build your list and then start working your list networking.
And so let me ask you then just one more follow-up question real quick. To get some more information, your book, Expect Success, where can people find that?
Well, I like to say it's everywhere. It's probably not, but you can get it on Amazon. You can get it on Barnes and Noble, both of them online. You can get it on Walmart online. If you want to shop Walmart, go for it. So you can get it there. And then I like to say it's in discerning independent bookstores around the country.
Fantastic. And if they're looking for more information about you, where can they find you?
I'm easy. I'm RecruiterGuy.com.
Well, fantastic. Bill, thank you so much for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.
Perfect, Ben. Thank you.
Well, that was Bill Humbert, the Recruiter Guy, giving us some fantastic advice. And I hope you guys will stick with us for a little bit more show right after this.
This weather report is brought to you by Sun and Ski Sports, your new mountain sports headquarters.
Welcome back to Wasatch Weekends. I hope you're having a great Saturday morning. And Steve is working on his wonderful 3-layer cake, and he's going to show us how to fill that guy right now.
I am a guest chef today. Thank you for the apron.
You're welcome,
Here with
Christine.
Steve Mumblow. We have the next step in this wonderful cake. We are going to be filling it and cutting the layers, right?
That's what we're going to be doing.
Okay, but this cake doesn't have a name, I just found out. So
It
what
has
would you
no name.
it?
Well, because we're at, what, 6,700 feet above sea level here, we'll call it our 67 cake.
Okay, so 67 cake, got it.
So the cakes have been baked, and let's hope that there's something good inside. And a little stick.
Yeah, it doesn't
Yep.
stick because of your greasing
And
trick. I like it.
We got one layer there.
Looks good.
And I'm just going to start with the first layer here and just cutting it in half. It's nice to have a lazy Susan here.
But normally you would use dental floss, is that
I
correct?
would use dental floss here because it gives a nice clean cut across the whole cake. There's my top of my first cake.
Look at that.
And let's not break it here, Steve. There, yay. Now
did
for
it.
the filling.
Okay.
This is the part that the kids love. Our filling is nothing more than a pint of heavy cream. Not whipping cream, heavy cream. And
Nice.
when you beat cream, you need a little sugar, but you never know how much, and it's everyone's taste. I kind of put in maybe about 2 tablespoons of sugar.
And that's to sweeten it, just to make it a little bit.
And it helps to hold the cream
I
together.
didn't know that.
Yes.
I've had
And
problems with whipping cream.
from my
so-
days in a restaurant, my 3 summers in college, they told me that. So I'm going to start whipping this cream here now at a high speed. And because it's going into a cake, we have to whip it a good amount of time, almost till it starts turning a little bit yellowish.
Oh, really?
Going to almost like a butter. And when you're blending, it'll be very free, but as you near the consistency that you want it, you're going to feel it starting to push back at you. So while I'm blending, Christine's going to do the fun part in picking out the colors for each of our layers
Okay.
and the flavorings for each of our layers.
We are here for the next step of the 67 cake with Steve Mumblow, president of Deerfield Media. This cake has lots of steps, but completely worth it. You don't want to skip anything because
No.
it won't turn out right. So
Well, we left off last. We had to whip our heavy whipping cream. Now we're going to put it into 3 different bowls, separate it out, because for a moment in time it's going to be Easter, just like we're coloring Easter eggs. And I'm going to jump ahead to one step. Canned frosting, don't put much more effort into that. Put a little whipped cream in it,
oh,
and it will spread easier for you.
that's a good tip.
Okay, now Christine, you get to pick out the colors.
Okay, lemon, yellow.
Go ahead.
Dump
Put it in that bowl there.
This one. This is where you can let the kids help out.
Yeah.
Well, they can help with the whole thing, but this is the funnest part.
Now
All right.
put in your extract.
A little lemon extract to go with our yellow. Just kind of
Yeah.
eyeball it.
Just eyeball
Don't
it.
need to measure it.
And then you just fold the whipped cream. You're not beating it again. You're just folding it to get the color and the flavor.
Just very gently.
Consistency throughout. And as you see, it is getting closer and closer to where we want it to be. Ah, there it is. Just like the Easter eggs, I told you. Now we're going to take this layer and we're going to put it in the center of the first layer of the cake. This is our lemon layer.
Our lemon layer.
And so when you put it in, someone has to be in mind because this is a cake to make other people happy.
Oh, absolutely. This will make a lot of people happy here.
So I don't go to the edge of the cake because your frosting will fill in the space there. Okay, now we're going to put the next layer on, and Christine,
All right.
the middle layer is the most important because, as I said before, that's for Patty.
Okay, so we're going to do peppermint in the middle.
We're
for
going to do
Patty.
peppermint in the middle, and I'm putting my next layer of cake on top of that.
Looks beautiful. We'll dump it
And we'll
in.
do it in this bowl here.
Okay, because we want the most for
Yes.
this layer.
And she likes it dark green, too. There we go. That's enough.
When do I stop?
A
Just
little
keep
bit
going.
of Ireland in there now.
There we go. Yeah, it'll be nice and dark for Patty. There we
Okay.
go.
Oh.
Very pepperminty.
You know,
She's
in
gonna
order
like
to
that.
save money, I carried all these spices on the plane from Massachusetts, and I had them thoroughly wrapped. Unfortunately, the TSA people detected some kind of odor coming from my luggage.
Oh, you're kidding.
And they opened the Ziploc in the bottles, and they did put the lids back on the bottles, but they didn't close the Ziploc.
Oh, no.
And a lot of my laundry smells peppermint.
Well,
But
it's a
that's
good
all
thing
right.
that Patty likes peppermint, so when you go home and smell like peppermint,
So there we are, and I'm going to ask Patty, is that the right color? She says yes. And so
Good.
I'm putting this on. It's my second layer. Once again, in the middle of the cake. And you just fan it out to about a ½ inch from the edge of the cake.
this is going to look so nice when you cut it, each of these layers being a different color.
It's wonderful. It is absolutely wonderful. Okay, there is our second layer. And I'm going to put the third layer on top of that.
Yeah, this whipping cream is so nice and thick. I would have not whipped it this long, but I
the
can
top
see.
layer is always for my brother Tony in South Carolina,
All right, Tony.
because he likes sweet. And
Sweet,
so
okay.
red is sweet.
So lots of orange extract
Yeah.
for Tony. All right, here we go. There we go. It's ready.
Okay. And so we're going to blend this as we have the others.
Reminds me of a spumoni. Have you ever had spumoni?
Yes, I have.
The layered ice cream with the different colors.
Uh-huh.
Kind of reminds me of that a little bit.
And so for Tony, is that all right, Tony? He always complains.
Oh, no. Sorry, Tony. Just apologize ahead of time. Let's get it out of the way.
And I'm going to spread this out as well. Not
Oh,
quite
it's
to the edge.
Smells
but
delicious.
close to it.
I mostly smell peppermint, so that's good. Yep. That cake was nice and cool, so you could cut it evenly.
Yes, you have to get it cool in
patient.
order it's just right. If I were home, I'd be using my fingers, but I'm out in public.
You have to behave on live TV. We appreciate that.
And then I'm going to put my top layer on. And there.
Oh, look at that.
And smush it down a little bit for consistency.
Oh, that is beautiful.
So that's where we are right now in our cake. So we have Tony and Patty and Rosie, very happy.
And we'll be thinking about them as we eat this delicious cake here in Park City. And we are going to come back and frost this thing.
That we're going to do.
All right, we'll be back right after this.
Welcome back to the show. Stardust Sustainables is a fantastic local business, and they're the subject of today's Small Town Stories by Park City's Chamber of Commerce. Let's take a look.
Welcome to Small Town Stories, sponsored by the Park City Chamber. Today we have Peter Murray here, president of Stardust Sustainables. He's going to share his small town story, what brought him to Park City, and how his business has evolved over time, and what he loves about this community here. Peter, thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
Excited to talk about your company. I know that it started somewhat recently, about 5 years ago, but before we get into that, tell me what originally brought you to Park City.
Well, originally, my brother and I came out here to ski about 30 years ago, and it was my first trip out west to ski, and I thought, I've got to somehow end up here. I just didn't think it would take that long to get here, but we really love the town. Then my wife and I came out and visited once during the summer, and we thought, oh, we've got to somehow move to Park City, and so we came here about 5 years ago, and we came from Virginia, and it was about a 4-day drive across the country. And on our first morning here, it was June 10th, and it snowed that morning. And we kind of looked at each other and said, did we really make the right move? But we knew that we did, and we've really embraced the community. We love being here. We've gotten involved in a lot of different things, and it's been perfect for us.
Coming on June 10th and seeing snow, that definitely is a great memory, a great way to be introduced to Park City, and pretty typical, actually.
Yes.
And the town has changed and evolved quite a bit from when you came 30 years ago, of course, to where it is today. What do you still love about it?
It still has a small town feel to it, and you know, we see growth everywhere. When we came from Virginia, there was a lot of growth there. And so even though it has grown a lot here, it's still got a lot of small town charm, and people are just so involved in the community. We see friends everywhere we go, whether it's the grocery store, church, or out on a bike ride. It's fun to feel that sense of a small town.
And when you made that decision to move from Virginia to Park City, it was a huge life change and shift, not only moving across the country, but also for your career and what you had done in the past, which led to this company. What were you doing in Virginia that really has made a huge difference and really influenced what you're doing now?
I had a landscape company, and I originally had a degree in horticulture from Virginia Tech, and had this landscape company for many years, and it was really a lot of fun. I enjoyed going to work every day. It was very creative. I loved working with my employees, loved working with my clients, loved working on heavy equipment sometimes, but there was always something fun and engaging about it. I loved going to work every day. But then, it got to a certain point where the business had grown a lot. The employees were really all running it very well, and it was a good time for me to step out. And so I talked to my general manager, who'd been with me for over 20 years, and I said, I think it's time for me to go. Are you ready to take over? And she said yes. And so she took over, and the company's done very well since I've left. But then I came out here, and I was still looking for something new to do, some new challenge. Wanted it to be something that would be beneficial for the earth, and so I started Stardust.
What was that moment when you knew that you wanted to start this company and start something specifically targeting plastic bags and being more eco-conscious and sustainable? Do you remember when you had that idea?
Yeah, I remember distinctly. I was actually sitting on my porch, and I'd been here about a week, and I was reading an article in the paper about 100 billion plastic bags are produced every year in the U.S., and that just floored me. I couldn't believe it, and so then that was the moment that I knew I wanted to do something, that I had to do something, and we can't control how they package our ketchup and how they package different food items that we buy, but we can control how we carry our groceries home. And so to me, it was sort of a low-hanging fruit, something that everybody could embrace and get involved in.
And so this was born, this company, Stardust, was born. And a lot of the idea for your bag came from your background in landscaping. Tell me about that.
Well, historically, the main product that this is made out of is jute, which is what burlap is made out of. And the Egyptians had been using jute for 2,000 years. Rope had been made out of it for almost that long. And it has so many nice qualities. It's so strong, it's flexible, it can get wet. But as I know from the landscape business, we used to dig trees, and when we would wrap the root balls in burlap, the burlap was extremely strong. You could lift a couple 1,000-pound root ball with it. But once you planted that in the ground, you knew that within a couple months that would totally biodegrade, decompose, the roots would be able to grow right through it, and that was the end of it. So I knew it was an earth-friendly product to begin with.
And then it became a great material to use for these bags.
Exactly.
So tell me about what happened from that moment you got the idea, you knew a material that would work well for this, to where you are today. It's evolved quite a bit. A lot of challenges and obstacles have been in your way, but it's been very successful. Tell us about the beginning and how it's evolved.
Well, we started with a bunch of prototypes of different types of fabrics. I really thought bamboo might be one of our fabrics that we would end up using, but there's something about bamboo when it gets processed, it actually makes it very weak, and so those were bags that tore apart very easily. And so then, then my next thought was, well, jute has got to be one of the top choices too. And this was one of our first prototype bags that we did, and this was straight jute, which is also known as burlap. And what we didn't like about the straight burlap was that it's fairly coarse material. And so what we ended up doing was adding a little bit of cotton to the mix, and then we got a much smoother product. And this was one of our very first bags that we started to sell. We sold this for a few years, and then we decided to start branding things for Park City. And this has always been one of our most popular bags here. And then we realized, well, Park City, they're selling very well, and we had some people down in Salt Lake who said, hey, can you start doing some things for us? And so this is one of our new bags here, Love Where You Live, Utah, and so this has been a very popular seller also. Well, now we've got people in other areas like Colorado who said, hey, can you do bags for us? So now we have Colorado branded bags, and then this is our newest bag that we've just gotten these in, and these actually have our label on them. So we really have started to create a Stardust brand that we hope will be recognized throughout the country, which brings us to this bag here. And we want to have a bag that we can sell anywhere in the country, not just Park City or Utah or Colorado. So that's sort of the progression that we've had.
And just exponential growth. But I want to make sure to mention that your bags are washable, and also they can be composted when they're very strong, and it's very likely they'll last many, many years. But in the event that kind of been worn through, they can be compostable, which is very important.
Yeah, you can either put them in a compost pile, or you can just bury them right in the soil, and in 9 weeks there's nothing left.
So very unusual. I feel like there's not another bag quite like this on the market.
No, there's not. The only thing that's close is a cotton bag. And the problem with cotton or canvas is that it has a lot of the same qualities, but to produce the cotton for one bag takes about 400 gallons of water. Cotton is grown in areas that typically are arid, and it takes a tremendous amount of irrigation. And so that's the cool thing about the jute, is that when it grows, all of the jute in the world grows in an area between India and Pakistan, or India and Bangladesh rather, and so it's a very moist area. So there's no irrigation involved. It's all natural rainfall. It grows without any fertilizer, no pesticides, and it actually gives off oxygen and absorbs CO2 more efficiently than trees.
And of course, there's no plastic in these bags at all.
No plastic at all.
Where can we find the bags, whether we're here in Park City or wherever we live across the country, across the world?
They are at the market. They are at both fresh markets here in town. They are at Atticus. They're at a number of stores throughout town. And you can find them on our website at stardust.earth. And we welcome everybody to try them out, and we're also looking for ideas. If people in other parts of the country have some ideas of some things that they think would work in their region, we'd love to hear from them.
And my last question for you is, having moved to Park City for the skiing, then you started a business here, from production to graphic design to being able to have a brand that will be known nationwide, what has been the best part of being here and doing this all in Park City?
I think one of the biggest payoffs is walking around town and seeing people using the bags. If I go into the grocery store or the farmer's market, Park City Market, the bank, even the pickleball courts, I see people carrying our bags everywhere. And so I know it's working, and I know our town has really embraced this. And one of the things is our town has a zero waste goal, and the Chamber of Commerce now is talking about sustainable tourism. And so I think this is one of the key elements for sustainable tourism, is to invite people to our town and have them see us all carrying the reusable bags, and kind of giving them the message that we care about our town, we care about our environment, and we want you to care about it as well.
Absolutely. Well, so very well said. Thank you so much, Peter, for being here today. Loved hearing your small town story. We're very grateful Stardust is here and for the difference that you're making within the environment and within our community. So thank you for your time.
Oh, thanks. It's been a pleasure.
We'll be back with more right here, right after this.
This weather report is brought to you by Sun and Ski Sports, your new mountain sports headquarters.
Welcome back to the show. No cake is complete without frosting, so we're going to take a look at Steve finishing up that cake right now.
Welcome back to the Mountain Morning Show, where we are baking a cake with our very own Steve Mumblow, president of Deerfield Media, and it is beautiful. I'm very impressed with how good it looks for making this on live TV.
Now we're up to
the
the final step. This was just a can of frosting out of the store. Costs $1.50 at Walmart. As you saw me before, I put some of the heavy whipped cream into it, and it kind of makes it a little easier to handle and to spread on the cake. Now the cake, when it bakes, is a little bit crispier around the edges as opposed to in the middle. So in order to minimize crust damage, if you want to call that, just put it on the edges and work your way in.
Oh, I always do it the opposite way. I dump it in the middle and then work my way out.
And just put a little bit on. Like when you're drywalling and you got to put the spackling on, when you're taping the sheetrock, a little bit at a time. It cuts down on sanding later on, and it makes life easier. Well, the same principle holds in doing a cake.
That's a great analogy. I would have never thought. So do you consider yourself a baker? You enjoy being in the kitchen?
It's fun. The best part is when we try it. If anybody likes it, then it's all worthwhile.
Oh, for sure.
If they don't like it, you kind of say, boy, did I waste my time. And
just don't invite them over.
We're just moving now to the center of the top of the cake.
I don't know how anyone would not like this. It's
And so
delectable.
Our top is done. Now on our sides, I usually go halfway along the cake, as you can see, and not go all the way down, because if you run out of frosting, no one's going to notice it on the bottom. So do yourself a favor and just put your frosting in around.
I'm learning a lot this morning.
The side of the cake.
Oh, wow. You really are a master.
And you're filling in. Remember I told you that little space that we left because of the whipped cream? Well, we're filling in that little space with frosting.
But your middle of your cake will have all the nice filling, so you're not sacrificing any of that.
And
so how often do you make this cake?
I make it for special occasions when the family gets together and remembrances. As I said, when my younger brother came along, we had to go to apple pie because there was no layer for him. And that caused problems with a 2-year-old.
Oh, dear.
And so
you're not going to be making apple pie next?
If I'm invited back, I could probably do apple pie. The trick to apple pie is not to overwork the dough.
Oh.
Okay, now the first part of it is done, so we still have plenty of frosting left. So now we're going to get down to the bottom of the cake in order to finish it off.
There we go. It's looking really good. Again, I would have done everything the exact opposite and it wouldn't look like this. It smells delicious. I wish you could smell it through the TV, but you're just gonna have to pop on by and have a piece of cake.
And
look at that.
Our cake is nearly done. Now, because we loosened up the frosting a little bit with the heavy cream, and we have cream frostings, it's a good idea to refrigerate the cake before you cut into it. let the frosting reharden to hold it together.
So do you make this cake at least a day ahead of time if you're gonna?
It will stay for a couple days.
A couple days, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to
And-
make it day of. It's not gonna work.
And
Well,
the
maybe.
problem is you keep going to the refrigerator and taking a slice of it
Oh.
bit by bit, and there's none left. So I still have plenty of frosting left for the reporters who want to have the bowl here.
We have one who will take
And,
that bowl right from you.
And there is our $6.95 cake.
It is beautiful. Look
If
at
you
this.
add in the flavorings and extract
We're
and
not gonna-
allocate it, you got to add $1.38.
Okay. Gotcha. So not an expensive cake to make, a beautiful cake. Well, we have more cake. You're not going to want to miss this. We are going to cut the cake. We're here with Steve Mumblow, Chef Steve,
Yeah.
making a beautiful cake, the 67 cake.
The 67
And
cake.
This is the best part. We're going to cut it.
And it's your honor.
You want me to cut it?
I want you to cut it.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Cut it down in half, and we'll put half on that plate, and we'll show the audience the other half.
You're really trusting me here after all this work for this beautiful cake to not mutilate it when I cut it. Ooh, you can feel those layers.
You can feel it. Just push it. If you give me this, I'll take half off, and we'll see what it looks like inside.
Oh, look at that.
And there's our cake,
Oh,
and what
it's
it looks like inside.
very pretty.
After it's been refrigerated, it's nice and cool, and the whipped cream is just great. I mean, it just melts in your mouth. It's absolutely wonderful, and everyone's happy. It's Easter all the time.
Thank you so much for tuning in to our 1-hour Saturday edition of Wasatch Weekends. Don't forget to catch us tomorrow, where we will talk to our fuzzy friends over at Nuzzles & Co. and speak to Caught in the Act. If you missed any of our episodes, you can always catch us on parkcity.tv. Until then, I'm your host, Ben Roof, and we will see you tomorrow.